Let's try to explain the phenomenon of the dark matter by using theory of moving space. The velocities of stars in the galaxy is too high to explain it by the gravity of visible mass. There must be additional matter or force to keep them in the galaxy. Besides, dispersion of speed of stars, which is predicted by the classical theory, practically not observed in the universe. In theory of moving space, space moves from all sides to the matter, and the force of gravity depends on the acceleration of space. At the same time, the acceleration of space depends on mass distribution, because while moving, the part of space is expanding itself. But at the same time, the space accelerates because of narrowing. Therefore, the speed of space in the galaxy disk can increase, decrease, and do not change. That depends on the mass distribution. Let's look what happens when the speed of space increases. In this case, the space accelerates, and the force of gravity will depend on this acceleration. And should not be surprises here, because the force of gravity should be corresponded to the force which predicted by the classical theory. But here we have one big difference, because the space have acceleration and also have a speed. And the speed of space always have direction to the center of galaxy. Therefore, the stars that moves around the center of galaxy always feels the changing of direction of space, and it considered as a moving with acceleration, because the vector of moving space changes its direction. Therefore appears the force of inertia, which is keeping direction of object speed in the space. Here, the object doesn't change its direction, but the space changes direction, and the effect the same. This force of inertia is called centrifugal force. You can feel it when you're moving with high speed, and when you're trying to turn, you feel the force which directed against your action. And it appears when the object changes its direction in space. But if the space changes its direction, then effect must be same. This centrifugal force is directed to the center of galaxy. I know that it sounds paradoxical. Besides, we already have the centrifugal force of orbital moving. To avoid this confusion, let's call this force the reactional force of space. By the way, this reactional force must be presented in a solar system. But because of low speed of space, the effect of reactional force is very small. Otherwise, this force can be explained as a partial neutralization of centrifugal force, as a partial neutralization of the reason of appearance of centrifugal force. The reason of appearance of centrifugal force is deviation from straight line motion. And here the straight line motion is changing because of moving space. And the centrifugal force of orbital moving becomes weaker. Based on this all, we can say that the motion of stars in the galaxy is determined by three forces: by the force of gravity, by the reactional force, and by the centrifugal force of orbital moving. Obviously, that the sum of the first and the second must be equal to the third. In case when the speed of space from the edge to the center increases, the gravity force increases, the reactional force is also increases. So diagram of speed dispersion must be with hump nearby the center of galaxy. Such dispersion of speed cannot be predicted by the classical theory, because there's no reactional force in it. But such dispersion of speed with hump is common for the early universe. In case when the speed of space from the edge to the center doesn't change, we have no acceleration of space. So the gravity stops working, and we have only one force that's keeping the stars in the galaxy: the reactional force of space. This case looks like that. Maybe this is the only one way to measure the speed of space. In this case, the diagram of speed dispersion will be flat, which is usual for the present universe. Let's look at third case, when the speed of space from the edge to the center decreases. In this case, the gravity also doesn't work, and all will be the same as in previous case, except for speed dispersion. It will grow from the center to the edge, and such speed dispersion is most common in the universe. But there's one question here. If the space is slowing down from the edge to the center, doesn't start the gravity to work backward? Perhaps yes. The next evidence is related with the speed of galaxies in the clusters. The speed of galaxies in the clusters is too high, and the mass of the clusters is not enough to hold them. There must be additional matter or force to hold them. And here also should be the reactional force of space. But here we have one more effect, which related with the moving of space. The radiation of light of these galaxies is going with doubled Doppler effect. One, because of the moving of galaxy, and second, because of the moving of space. And we know that the radiation of the moving object is going with the Doppler effect, and the value of the effect will be equal to the sum of the own speed and the speed of space. Therefore, to calculate the speed of galaxy in the cluster, we need to know the speed of space. The next evidence is the gravitational lensing. The light bending of the galaxy clusters is much stronger than predicted by theory. There must be additional matter to explain so strong bending. In theory of moving space, the light is shifting by the moving space, and the angle of bending depends on the speed of space. The speed of space nearby the clusters possibly reaches 4,000 of kilometers per second, and maybe that's why the bending is so strong. The next evidence of the dark matter is that the galaxy clusters have a gas with high temperature, and to hold this gas need more mass. Partially, it can be explained by the high speed of space and by the reactional force of space. But it needs to be considered in the context of the processes that happens there. And probably we need to find the answer for question, why does the high temperature gas appears there, instead of looking for force that keeping it there. In one of the following video, I will try to give the answer for this question. Those of you who were interested by the dark matter maybe already seen this picture, which called the cluster bullet. Here pictured two clusters that flew through each other, and according to the interpretation of scientists, the major part of the baryonic matter is slowed down, but the other part and the dark matter flew forward. The dark matter was recognized by the gravitational lensing. The ordinary matter and the high temperature gas were recognized by the X-ray radiation. But this situation can be explained by other way. Maybe the major part of the matter were passed through, but hot ionized gas and small objects were slowed down by the electromagnetic force and by collision. As a result, were started the processes of a secondary collisions, star formation, and other processes. But there's one more explanation, which says that our methods of observation and analysis are not perfect, because there's other picture, which called Abel 520, which have absolutely opposite situation that cannot be explained by theory of dark matter. Usually, supporters of theory of dark matter shows the picture cluster bullet as a proof of the dark matter, but they don't show the picture Abel 520 and even pretends that it doesn't exist. And finally, I want to say that for many years of searching, the particle of dark matter was never detected. But according to the theory, there must be the particles of dark matter in the solar system. And now let's remember what properties have the dark matter. The dark matter only interacts by the gravity. The distribution of the dark matter in the large-scale structure of universe matches with the distribution of the ordinary matter. Doesn't that tell us that the dark matter is just a phantom phenomenon, which appeared due to our misunderstanding of the gravity? Maybe the dark matter is just a bug of theory